This episode of How to Money is brought to you by American Express Business. American Express Business offers a line of cards packed with features and benefits like membership rewards points, flexible payment options, employee cards, and much more to help take your business further.
Because with needs like yours, you need a card designed for business, built for business by American Express. Don't do business without it. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/businesscards.
Millions of Americans are getting back to work. CareerBuilder calls it the great rehire. And we want to help you get the best jobs before everyone else. CareerBuilder gives you the competitive edge to get the job you want, at the salary you want, with the benefits you want. We even send job alerts, so your perfect job lands right in your inbox. Go to CareerBuilder.com today, or get left with whatever jobs are left. Find your next job fast at CareerBuilder.com. CareerBuilder is made for people who have that thing. You know, those superpowers that make you good at your job, the skills you bring to work. And CareerBuilder knows those skills make you right for other jobs too. Higher paying jobs with benefits, jobs you never thought of trying. Are you a people person? Work from home as a customer service rep? Are you organized and like driving? Become a delivery driver. You have the skills it takes, and CareerBuilder.com has the jobs to get you hired fast. Visit CareerBuilder.com.
Welcome to How to Money. I'm Joel.
And I'm Matt.
Today we're discussing employer-matched savings accounts, annoying hotel fees, and where to save the most on a refinance.
Joel, you know what's annoying is when your internet goes down. We don't have to have Wi-Fi while we record this episode. We just need to be connected to the computer. But dude, doesn't it suck when the Wi-Fi goes down?
Yes, it does. And so we've been rolling with our Mint Mobile hotspots this afternoon, and it is amazing. I will say it's really nice to have
To be able to do that, yeah.
It's way slower.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it is not the. I mean, we've got the 300 megabits per second package over here, so we're used to blazing fast internet. And down here in the basement, we don't get great coverage.
This reminds me of my old school days on AIM.
It really does.
AOL Instant Messenger after school.
Yeah, I don't think we have a clear line of sight to whatever cell tower is closest to us because we barely have one bar down here in the basement surrounded by concrete. But speaking of phones.
It's doing its job though.
It is, it's getting it done. Hopefully we'll get that figured out this afternoon. But yeah, man, speaking of phones, we've talked about my old crusty original iPhone SE. Was released over 5 years ago, by the way. But I'm getting so close to being able to get a new phone because I'm holding out. I've been waiting on the iPhone 13, but I haven't been holding out because I want to get the 13. I've been holding out because I'm waiting for the 13 to get announced because typically at the same time, they reduce the price of the current phones that are already out.
That's the way to go, man, because when you think about it, what changes are actually going to be made to the iPhone 13 that the iPhone 12 didn't have. At this point, we've talked about this on the show, that incremental changes are what's happening with each new model. And it's nice to have an extra perk or two or feature or two, but when it comes down to it, the differences are so minimal that take the extra, you're probably going to save an extra $150 by buying the last year's model.
Yeah,
and
sometimes
it's going to be just as good.
Drop by $100. If you're lucky, it'll drop $150. I think it's only done that a couple of times. But I mention that because if you, like me, are in the market for a new phone, hold out just maybe a couple weeks longer. Typically, the iPhone launch event, at least for Apple, it's sometime in September. And so typically, once they announce that new phone is when you'll see all the different retailers trying to clear out their inventory of the old phones in order to make room for that new one, and that's how you're going to save some money.
All right, let's keep moving on though, Matt. Let's get to our Friday flight. Let's talk about the stories we found interesting this week. There are a lot of them, and the first one has to do with online banks. Forbes had an article this week about the rise of the fintech banks. And while millennial and younger demo, like Gen Z, they're still doing business, it turns out, with Wells Fargo, with Chase, and Bank of America. The younger crowd, the people in our generation, seem to be moving their primary accounts away from the biggest banks. A lot of 20-somethings are hedging their bets. They're still keeping an account with one of the major banks, mostly for convenience purposes, like, hey, there's one on every corner, and so I can go pop in there if I need to. But they're realizing, I think, that the online account they opened is better for everyday use. Mm-hmm. And that's true in basically every way, right? We love the online banks are offering the best service, the fewest fees, and the best interest rates on your savings and more. And so, yeah, I'd like to see this trend continue, Matt, like where where our cohort, where people more and more are ditching some of these bigger banks, doing less business with them, and switching their allegiance to some of the online banks because I think they deserve it. I think they have a much better product, and I think we'd all be better off if we did more of our banking with some of those banks as opposed to the biggest ones that you see on advertisements.
That's right. Yeah, but it is important for us to mention that not every fintech company that's out there is running a good, smooth operation. We've talked about how some of the neobanks, how they're not providing great customer service either. And in some cases, customers are actually getting their accounts shut down with zero notice. And specifically, this is something that Chime did, which is also another reason why they have seen customers leave their platform overall.
They're looking for new banks now.
Yeah, because folks are like, I'm not down with you treating people the way that you've been doing that. And it's worth pointing out, too, that many of these companies aren't actual banks. They've just created these slick interfaces and are working with a separate bank in the background to deliver the services that they're providing. And so we suggest that you look at an actual online bank with a great presence. So we're talking about banks like CIT, Discover, Ally Bank. They are who I've been banking with for, over 5 or 6 years now. They're basically what I like to refer to as the Grand Central Station of my money. It's everything kind of goes through that account before I push it to other investment accounts, things like that. But there are also other great online banks out there as well, aside from those three that I just mentioned. But just please avoid the big banks for your actual checking and savings. It is not worth paying the monthly fees or maintaining whatever balance you need to maintain in order for the quote-unquote convenience of having an account locally that you really don't need.
Yeah, and those big banks are just becoming less and less convenient. And I understand that there's a brick and mortar nearby, but of course it makes sense, Matt, that 20 and 30-somethings in particular, we're used to avoiding brick and mortar stores anyway, so why not do the same when it comes to our bank?
Totally.
But speaking of savings, there was another story this week. The Wall Street Journal had an article about one of the top new employer perks out there, which is employers matching the savings of their employees.
Super cool.
Yeah, I like seeing that because employers have already, for the most part, really taken up the mantle of helping us save for retirement, right? 401k matches are mostly standard across business, but there's been a big increase in employers who want to see their employees have a better handle, not just on their distant future self, but on their right now self as well, helping them establish a rainy day fund. So some of these employers are paying sky high interest as an incentive to save more money. Others are matching a certain amount of what you put towards this account. And Matt, it's interesting because employees tend to perform better at their job when they have fewer money problems going on.
Sure. Yeah, it makes sense that you would do better at work if you're not stressed about the car overheating and having to take it into the shop.
Exactly. There's all sorts of things that pop up in our lives, and employers are starting to realize that when their employees are not in a healthy position financially, that it impacts their work, right? And it impacts their bottom line. So yeah, I think we're going to see more and more of these programs popping up. And if one of these programs pops up where you work, take advantage of it. Free money is free money. And either way, make sure you have a solid e-fund in place, even if your employer's not helping you out. It's an important thing to have on hand, right?
It's but this isn't a benefit that my employer offers. No, you still need to have an emergency fund set up. And what's really cool about this program too is, especially if some employees are able to make some of those contributions to their savings pre-tax, like a 401k, that would be an even more reason to kind of go with this program. But aside from that, this is such a huge win, I think, from an employer standpoint as well, because it just doesn't cost them a lot of money and it looks really good in the eyes of their employees. And so, for instance, kind of standard rates right now for online banks, they're paying 0.5%. Even if your employer was paying 6 times what the going online bank rate is, and so let's say 3%, even if they cap that on $10,000, you're just looking at $300 in interest every year.
Yeah.
That is not much money to be paying, to an employee to have a boosted savings account through their work. But to the employee, man, to earn 6x whatever, your online bank is paying, that looks I would do it. That looks incredibly attractive.
It breeds loyalty for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And at the same time, just so incredibly affordable. I think this is a slam dunk, and hopefully more employers will jump on it. Maybe we can figure out a way to set one of these up for How to Money.
I'd be up for it.
All right, let's talk about selling things online. We've kind of talked about eBay recently. Even though Facebook Marketplace, that can be a great way too to score a deal on something that your neighbor is trying to unload. it can really sometimes be a hassle if you're the one doing the selling. I've talked about this before, but coordinating with potential buyers.
That's the worst part.
To show up when they're supposed to.
The no-shows.
It can be, dude, such a headache. But if you're looking to sell your gently used favorite Swedish furniture, IKEA might have an easy solution for you. IKEA announced this furniture buyback program this week. So if you're no longer needing that Malm dresser, you can bring it into the store and they'll give you store credit.
Or do you have any more IKEA furniture names that you can mention?
Billy.
That's right, the Billy bookcase.
Billy bookcase.
Yep.
That's all I can think of off the top of my head. Honestly, what I really should know the name of is the white high chair that y'all use, that we use, that is completely ubiquitous. You see them everywhere. If you've got a baby and they're messy, like, you've got to have one of those. But it truly is really easy. All you have to do is fill out a form ahead of time, and you just indicate the condition that it's in. You'll get a quote. And then as long as you don't like break off the leg of a chair on the way to the store, if it looks like it's actually in the condition that you said it's in, you will get that store credit. It's worth mentioning that you'll still likely be able to get more for it if you were to sell it yourself. But for those who otherwise wouldn't go through the trouble, through the hassle of trying to sell something online, IKEA could be the solution, and those folks will be able to recoup some costs. And plus, this means less furniture in the landfills as well. If some of these gently used pieces of furniture are able to go to somebody else who's willing to pay a little bit less for an object that's still really good. And we wanted to mention too that they're rolling this out in Pennsylvania, so it's not yet going to be available probably to your nearest IKEA, but it's something you can keep an eye out for as they roll it out to all the rest of the IKEAs.
Yeah, I think part of whether it's going to make sense for somebody or not, Matt, is how close is that IKEA to your house?
Sure.
Because there's usually one, maybe two in a city, and like we have one in Atlanta. And for people who live 30 minutes away from IKEA, 45 minutes away from IKEA, listing it on Facebook is probably a little bit easier. But if you're like 10 minutes away, right around the corner, that's an easy way to get rid of that gently used IKEA furniture, which is interesting because I've always thought of most of those pieces as throwaway. But
they're getting better.
Yeah, but they are getting better.
Really are.
Exactly. And so they are lasting longer, many of them. I distinctly remember having like a wardrobe years ago, and we tried to move it. This was a decade ago, and it basically fell apart. But I feel like the pieces I have now from IKEA are actually much better.
They're definitely more sturdy than they used to be.
Yeah, but speaking of preventing waste, Fast Company magazine just did a deep dive on a new form of packaging to help you get the last drop out of your containers. And so, there's this new thing called Every Drop, and they put this super slippery coating on the inside of the bottles that they make so that whatever's in there, like lotion or shampoo, just kind of slides on out.
Nice.
Some estimates, Matt, say that people toss 17 to 25%, which sounds like a lot, like 25%. Like people are throwing
Who
away
leaves a quarter? I mean, I guess if you've got like a 1 ounce thing of lotion, it's like,
That's true.
half of it's probably still in there because you can't get it all off of the sides of the container, right?
Yeah, but they're saying that people are leaving that much in the containers, which sounds like more than I would assume. But I feel like
people are wasteful though.
This is a cool way though to make sure that we're getting everything out of our containers. I know some people cut the tube of toothpaste. Are you one of those people in order to get the rest out?
Dude.
I'm not either.
I don't put that kind of time into getting every last little drop out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I squeeze it pretty hard, but I'm not cutting the end off.
Yeah, I squeeze it really hard and then I kind of tuck the edges in and kind of push it up the middle. You ever do that move?
Yeah,
And one of the other things too that they mentioned is how most lotions and shampoo bottles, they're not clear, right? They're opaque because when all the lotion and when all the junk just sticks to the inside of the bottle, it's kind of gross looking.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like, splattered throughout. But because these things are so slick, it looks like a perfectly clear bottle wherever the lotion or shampoo or whatever, wherever it isn't, which I love the idea of that because it's just really gratifying to be able to see how much you have left as opposed to just being like, how much is in there? You're like, get some water in there, shake it around, you try to get it to where you can get more of the actual shampoo out of there. But if you can see it and it slides right out and you can literally see that, yep, there's nothing left in here. I really like that idea.
Yeah, I mean, I got to be honest. I hope a whole lot of manufacturers start to use bottles like these
too.
Because, I mean, really, it's a win-win for everybody to
Seriously.
Get more of the stuff that you're paying for.
I don't
already.
think I've gotten so excited about a potential change to home goods, like just like a small packaging thing that could transform how we use some of these products.
No doubt. Yeah, let's keep moving, Matt. Let's talk about hotel fees. I'm not sure if any of our listeners are staying in a hotel room anytime soon. If you travel much, we talked about a bunch of ways to save money on travel recently on the show, but it's been a while, Matt, since I've stayed in a hotel room. But the thing is, we're about to stay in one in Austin, Texas, because
That's right.
we're going out there for a Nerdy Money Media Conference
all
later this month. month.
All the listeners out there who live in Austin, by the way, keep an ear out because we might try to set something up here in a few weeks.
Yeah, listener hangouts. We'll put that out on Instagram and hopefully on the show too. So make sure you're following us there so you can hear about that hang. But Matt, the Wall Street Journal actually reports that new hotel fees are springing up across the industry. And so for our listeners, it's smart to be on the lookout for these when you are booking a hotel. Basically, the hotel companies are taking a page from the major airlines. Some hotels are cutting their room rates a little bit, but then jacking up rates for amenities a lot. So for instance, if you want to check in a little bit early, there's going to be a fee for that. If you want to use the pool or the hot tub, there's going to be a fee for that. And if you want like a daily housekeeping or you want to get breakfast, like all of those things are probably going to cost additional money. I think we're just going to go to that kind of a la carte service pricing in hotels that we've seen with airlines. It'll be interesting to see how quickly these things get adopted and like really how far these fees go, because I'm sure there's going to be some pushback from travelers. But I will say, being able to pay less for a room sounds nice. And then you get to kind of decide which of these fees you're going to pay or not.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, fees are annoying, but the fact that you are not going to pay for things that you aren't taking advantage of, I really like that. It makes me think about when we were talking about different things being paid with subscription, where you're paying a monthly fee as opposed to a massive cost up front. If it allows you to be more selective and to, like you said, pay more a la carte with the services or amenities that you're looking for, I like the ability to be a little more frugal in that way.
Yeah, one of the key things in that article was that they're going to be lowering rates for rooms. So it's going to be more appealing to people who don't care about all that extra stuff.
Right.
They're just going to save money.
As long as they're lowering the price on the rooms overall. Because if they keep the prices where they are and then on top of that are kind of tacking on these additional fees, then they're going to see a lot of folks who are upset about that. And I think, honestly, it comes down to how they communicate how they're going to charge these fees. Because if you say you're at a hotel and you want to go jump in the pool, if you don't know that before you swipe your card to unlock the door to the pool or whatever, and then afterwards you see a itemized charge that, oh, you went to the pool every day, but really you just kind of like sat out there in a chair because you wanted to be outside or something like that, that would be incredibly frustrating. You're like, I didn't even get in the stupid pool. Why are you charging me $20? And so I think communication is key, but also I could see it being annoying too, with the inability to possibly compare prices with different hotels as easily, right? Because when you have a single price, it's easy. But if you're also looking at all these additional fees and you're trying to total up, okay, how much am I going to use the pool? I think that can make it a little more difficult. It makes me think about Airbnb, how different places you stay will have different cleaning fees, or they'll, maybe if it's another guest, they'll charge a little bit more for an extra guest. It's not uniform, so it makes it difficult to figure out what the total cost is. So I don't like that the transparency goes away a little bit there with these additional fees.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on this and we'll keep talking about it because that remains to be seen, like which hotels are actually going to adopt these new fees. And none of the major hotel chains seem to have said, well, we're definitely doing this. They're saying, we're keeping an eye on what happens with these smaller hotels that are imposing these fees and seeing how it goes.
It seems like they're all about to. They're all looking at the other hotels and everyone's scared to kind of take the first step because they don't want to be considered the hotel chain that nickels and dimes you to death, basically.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. All right, we got more to get to, Matt, including the fact that there are other fees that we need to discuss. In particular, fees you pay when you're investing your money. We'll get to that and more right after this break.
So I'm not sure how much we've talked about clothes on the show, but I don't have many different articles of clothing. Joel, I like to keep things pretty minimal. I've got my uniform.
I do know that about you.
I don't give myself many options. But what that means is that I need to keep the clothes I do have looking good. And that can be tough with a bunch of kids running around the house. But OxiClean Max Force makes it a lot easier. My favorite thing about OxiClean is that as soon as I get a kiddo's greasy spaghetti handprint on my shorts, I can spray it right away, throw it in my laundry bin, and wash it a week later. I do this all the time, literally, and my clothes look good as new.
Yeah, you're looking nice today, buddy. And OxiClean Max Force tackles the toughest dried-in stains like dirt and food, even grease and oil, combining 5 powerful types of stain fighters to help get out more of your toughest stains the first time. And since my kids haven't met a mess they weren't fond of, that's really important to us.
Yeah, and by the way, it's important to point out that OxiClean Max Force is safe on colors, so you can use it for all the different clothes you need to get clean. So work your magic with OxiClean Max Force and save. Visit OxiCleanCoupons.com now, where a coupon is waiting just for you.
Making content is an essential part of what we do to keep this show going. 3 episodes a week is a big deal, but it hasn't always been a seamless creative process. For example, putting together a deck to be able to show potential show partners what our show is up to. It isn't something that I envisioned us doing, but now it needs to be done. But since finding Canva Pro, we can design anything like a pro, and we can do it on any device.
Yeah, and designing with Canva Pro is amazingly fast, and it's actually fun. You can choose from thousands of templates that are easy to customize, or you can start from scratch if you'd like. And Canva Pro has endless premium fonts, photos, videos, and so much more that'll add that personality, give you that edge to whatever it is that you're designing. And my favorite Canva Pro feature is the ability to collaborate and design together. It's never been easier to share, edit, comment, all in real time.
Yeah, you can design like a pro with Canva Pro. Right now, you can get a free 45-day extended trial when you use our promo code. Just go to canva.me/howtomoney to get your free 45-day extended trial. That's canva.me/howtomoney. Canva.me/howtomoney. After the year we've all been through, saving money should be at the top of everyone's resolution list. So if you're still paying insane amounts of money every month for a wireless service, what are you doing? Switching to Mint Mobile is the easiest way to save this year. As the first company to sell premium wireless service online only, Mint Mobile lets you maximize your savings with plans starting at just $15 a month.
Yeah, Joel, you and I, both of our families have been with Mint Mobile now for over a year, and we are saving serious money, dude. This is something we talk about on the show a lot. We talk about how switching to a low-cost cell phone provider is a great way to save money. And by going online only and eliminating the traditional costs of retail, Mint Mobile passes significant savings on to you, our listener. All plans come with unlimited talk and text, plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network.
And if you're not 100% satisfied, Mint Mobile has you covered with their 7-day money-back guarantee. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get that plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/money. That's mintmobile.com/money. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/money.
All right, we are back, and this is our Friday Flight, where every week we're looking at the different stories and how it impacts your money. And Joel, we're back from the break, so you know that means it is now time for the ludicrous headline of the week. And this one actually came from the Washington Post, and the headline read, "The simple tricks that turned one investor's $70,000 retirement account into a $264 million fortune."
I want to know what that trick is.
Yeah, exactly. This one was sent to us by listener Thor. We appreciate you sending that one our way. And it seemed like this investor, Ted Weschler, I think that's how you say his name, he was attempting the Warren Buffett approach of buying undervalued companies. And actually, it turns out that he was doing a really good job at it because
sounds like it.
yeah, because of the size of his portfolio, and because Warren Buffett actually hired this guy, I don't know, like 10, 15 years ago.
It's like the ultimate sign of respect.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like game recognizes game. He's just like, oh, you need to come on board. So yeah, more power to Mr. Ted. But we've got a bone to pick with the Washington Post because there is no simple trick, or there's no simple tricks in order to supercharge your investment returns. And so this guy was able to do this because this was literally his job. He was doing this. He was managing hedge funds. He was researching companies and looking for inefficiencies and finding the companies that were undervalued. And here's the thing, most of us don't have the time or the ability to research, to pick and then to invest heavily in these individual companies within individual stocks. It's not our full-time job. And so we wanted to mention that because there is no easy button to push. You're not missing out on some secret that is going to allow you to see thousands of percent return every single year. But something that Ted mentioned and that he's quoted saying there at the end of the article, his simple advice was to start early, maximize the employer match, invest 100% in equities, and ignore all of the other noise. And that is definitely some great advice and something that we can get behind.
That's right. Yeah, we completely agree with that advice. The problem with that headline was like, there's this simple trick that's going to turn your retirement portfolio from being, worth very little to magically turning into millions and millions, tens of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
That is just not possible for almost anybody.
I want to know the secret. What was that book like 10 years ago?
Yeah,
like
I never
The
read
Secret
it.
or whatever? It was just like positivity.
Right, I think so, yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Be happy, okay?
I wanted to mention something else too. They're focusing on him being able to transform that $70,000 into $264 million over the course of 30 years. Mm-hmm. But let's not overlook the fact that if he would have just taken that $70,000, stuck it in the S&P 500 and let it sit for 30 years, he would have seen over $1.6 million. And that's if he had never even contributed any more to it.
Yeah.
So $70,000 just parked for 30 years.
It's not $264 million.
It's not $264, which is like mind blowing. But hey, $1.6 million is a lot of money.
Right.
And I don't want to overlook that.
No, I think that's worth pointing out for sure. And Matt, since we're talking about investing in the Roth IRA, which is where Mr. Wexler had his money, let's talk about its cousin, the Roth 401k. And it turns out that according to this new study by the Plan Sponsor Council of America, Roth 401ks are being massively underutilized. Almost 75% of plans now allow us the option to invest inside of a Roth, which is just a massive uptick from a few years ago. My employer, I think, Matt, my former employer, started the last year I was there. I was like, where was this for the decade prior when I really needed it? But yeah, it turns out that most people aren't taking advantage of the Roth option that they have, right? Only 1 in 4 folks have made the switch to making Roth contributions in their retirement accounts. They are sticking with their traditional 401k contributions. So if you aren't sure whether you're routing your money towards a traditional or towards a Roth, we would suggest that you log into your account and you take a look. For lots of How to Money listeners, it makes sense to take the tax hit now, which is what you're doing when you invest inside of a Roth option, and then allow those investments to grow tax-free and be spent tax-free in retirement. It's just one of those little things that you can optimize. It won't take long. It's not that hard. And putting your money in a Roth over traditional makes sense for most people.
Yeah, and this is especially true if you believe your higher earning years are ahead of you, right? If you're just getting started in your career and you're not earning a lot, your effective tax rate isn't as high as it likely will be in the future. And, Joel, one other thing that we mentioned quite a bit is to pay attention to the investment fees that we're paying. We're talking about investing here. Well, even if you haven't cared enough to check what the fees are, the chances are that those fees have fallen off a cliff without you having to do anything. Even procrastinators out there have been helped by the general downward fee push that we've seen. Morningstar, they just released some new research and they found that investment fees have been cut in half over the last 2 decades. But for passive investors like most of us here in the How to Money community, fees have fallen even more. And so it pays to be a passive investor in low-cost index funds, and those fees are likely going to continue to decline. And actually, advisors are even steering clients to lower-cost funds, but it seems that might be to mostly make room for their own fees, because if there's the lower the fee they charge, the fund charges, the more it feels like they have room to charge you more for their services. Yeah, right? And even if the overall fees are going down, if they've moved you to a fee that costs dramatically less, they could even actually increase the fee that they're charging you, and to you, it looks like you're saving money. But if you want to know more about the pros and cons of financial advisors, and specifically how to pick one, we would recommend you listen back to episode 206. That's an episode where we dove in deep and got all up in financial advisors' business.
Yeah, and there are reasonable reasons to go see a financial advisor. There's just a lot of stuff that you need to consider. So hopefully that episode's helpful on that front. And Matt, you mentioned that fees might continue going down. For people like you and I and our listeners who do business with the least expensive investment houses like Fidelity, Vanguard, M1, Charles Schwab, all those guys, it's kind of hard to imagine that they could go any lower, because some of the fund expenses on our favorite funds are so minuscule already. But it's going to be kind of interesting to see where the next 5, 6, 10 years take us.
Totally.
All right, Matt, let's talk about something else that was in the news recently. The Supreme Court recently struck down an eviction ban that the CDC enacted, which basically, let's be honest, it was kind of like a Hail Mary.
Yeah.
The president even said that that's what it was. Basically, it turns out that the CDC isn't He-Man. They don't have the power. They can't do it. And basically, it needed to be an act of Congress instead for this to actually hold water. But what this means, after almost 18 months of a federal ban on evicting tenants who couldn't pay, landlords are now going to be allowed to begin the eviction process. And that is good news for some landlords, right, who have been attempting to float a mortgage with no rent coming in. Right. But it's also bad news if you found yourself in a tough financial situation and are having difficulty paying the rent. And Matt, based on the numbers we're seeing, it looks like hundreds of thousands, if not millions of renters who are behind on rent right now could be facing eviction in the coming months. So there's certainly a lot of worry out there for a lot of those folks.
Right, but there is help available if you, or if there's someone you know who is in that boat. Some states like New York, New Jersey, California, Washington, they all still have policies to help keep renters in place. And also, there are tens of billions, with a B, of dollars in rental assistance that is still available. And these are funds that are specifically earmarked to help keep renters in their houses. only 11% of those funds have been dispersed. And the thing is, this isn't because of a lack of need, but just because the marketing has been pretty awful. We'll actually put a link up in our show notes to the CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, where they make it easy for you to find out, or where you can share that state-specific information. But if you're struggling to keep up with rent and other bills, make sure that you apply, make sure you look into that. And so much of this too kind of comes down to the specific states, because the federal government gave authority to the states. Some states are worried about fraud, and so they're just being really slow with dispersing some of those funds. But again, if that's the boat that you fall into, definitely look into that resource, and we'll make sure to link to that in our show notes.
Yeah, it's just a shame that so many people who need this money don't know that it exists. And so
it makes me think of like the Titanic, with like how many lifeboats were still on board when it sank. It's just like they were there. We just needed to have done a better job getting the people in the boats.
Exactly.
That's kind of what this feels like.
So that's like what we want to do, is like let people know that this money exists, and to say, if you need it, make sure you go apply for it. And that link will be in the show notes on our site today. But also let other people know who might be struggling, friends, family, people that you love, who haven't been able to pay their rent on time. Make sure they know about these relief funds so that they can take advantage.
Totally.
And Matt, let's talk, make a shift now and talk instead about homeowners for a second, since we're talking about housing. There's a recent survey actually from Bankrate, and it found that 74% of homeowners who bought a house before the pandemic are missing an opportunity to significantly reduce their mortgage payments. They also found that 38% of homeowners don't even know what their current interest rate is, which I was surprised to think that 2 out of 5 people, if you ask them on the street, they're going to be like, I don't know.
Yeah, I know mine.
All right, well, congratulations. You're one of the few. But it is time to change that, right? I think anybody who doesn't know the current interest rates that they're paying needs to go check and see. And in particular, if it's above 4%, then there's a good chance that you should look into refinancing ASAP. Even if it's in the upper 3% range, there's a solid chance that you could save enough, a meaningful amount, by refinancing because rates are still below 3% on a 30-year mortgage. So this is one of those areas where the hard work, I know it's annoying, filling out the application, turning in all your documents, and working to get this refi done. It's kind of a pain, but it can result in saving hundreds of dollars every month and thousands of dollars a year moving forward. And so it's one of those things, Matt, that I think a lot more people need to think about. They need to kind of get motivated to actually make this happen, because it could result in huge savings for them.
Refinancing is a completely underappreciated personal finance move. We've actually got an article up on the site that walks you through when refinancing makes sense for you and how to go about it in order to get the best possible terms. In short, it doesn't make sense for everyone, but it makes a heck of a lot of sense for a bunch of folks. And when it comes to where you get your refi done, we list out a few options, credit unions being one of those. But if you like the ease of doing stuff online, Credible is actually one of our favorite sites to check out. We'll have a link in the show notes to that article and to Credible specifically. But they do a fantastic job of getting you multiple quotes at one time after filling out just a simple form. And since another major problem is a lack of rate shopping, getting multiple quotes in one spot also fixes that problem as well.
Yeah, most people want to go to one place and be like, all right, what's the best terms you can give me? Okay, that'll do. And they take
Sign me up. Let's do it.
And that again, especially when you're talking about such a big decision with so much on the line, with so much potential savings to be had, you don't want to go to just one place.
Totally.
And the nice thing about literally going to one place in Credible is that they are shopping a lot of other places for you. So you are getting multiple rate quotes without the hassle of talking to like 4 or 5 different lenders on the phone or emailing back and forth. But
exactly.
But yeah, so if you're in that position, if you can save money from a refinance, if you haven't, even if you've only owned your home for 2 or 3 years, taking that opportunity, like that survey said, 74% of homeowners really could stand to benefit substantially from refinancing. If you're in that boat, make sure you look into it. All right, but that's going to do it for today's episode. We'll have show notes up on our website, including all of the links that we discussed today.
That's right. And if you've been listening to the show for a while, we would be incredibly grateful if you went over and left us a review over at Apple Podcasts. Here's the thing. I don't exactly know how it helps us, but we know that it does. It's impossible to quantify, though. Either way, we would love for you to do that, to share your thoughts about the show with other people, and that'll help them to find our show. It'll help them to ultimately make smarter moves with their money. We hope everyone has a great holiday weekend, and we'll have a new Ask How to Money episode here for you on Monday. Joel, until next time.
Best friends out.
Best friends out. We are excited to tell you about an important new podcast from iHeartRadio and Salesforce.org called Force Multiplier. It's all about the exponential impact that positive relationships can have on the world. Comedian and author Baratunde Thurston speaks with leaders from the public, private, and nonprofit world about using the power of partnership to tackle today's toughest challenges.
You'll hear about people putting technology to work to scale and move at speed, multiplying their positive impact. Listen to Force Multiplier on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
The stories that are affecting the Black community are being covered on the Black Information Network. Not a show or a podcast, BIN is a 24/7 news network covering stories from a Black perspective. Listen to the Black Information Network on the iHeartRadio app and get news for and by the Black community. Anywhere, anytime. Keeping you informed, keeping you engaged. The Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
I want to get back to kissing the cheeks of my grandbabies, making Sunday dinner with a house full of family and lots of laughs.
COVID-19 has changed how we live and how we feel. But now, there are vaccines. And they are the very first step that let us get back to what we miss most. It's okay to have questions.
Is it safe?
Should I wait? Now, get the facts. Visit getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision when vaccines are available to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council.